The white-tailed hawk, whose scientific name is Geranoaetus albicaudatus, is one of those hawks that is common in America but that few people know about. Alessandro Abdalla, who is a nature photographer and bird-watching guide in the Serra da Canastra, found a nest of this bird, recorded several images and gave them to tropical birds, for which I am very grateful. In October 2013, Alessandro found the nest in the Serra da Canastra in Minas Gerais, a typical nest of the species, a platform of branches and dry twigs in the crown of an isolated tree. In the nest, there were 2 chicks about 30 days old. During the first observations, snakes and small birds were the main food fed to the nestlings. 2 weeks later, the nestlings had almost doubled in size and were close to making their first flights out of the nest. Their flight and tail feathers were fully developed and ready for the challenge. But they still needed a little more training and to exercise their pectoral muscles. An adult arrived with a small bird. The lighter young bird caught the prey and secured the meal, swallowing it whole. Even a larger mouse, the young bird is able to swallow it whole without having to tear it apart. Impressive! The white-tailed hawk is an opportunistic species with a varied diet. It mainly hunts small birds, snakes, lizards, amphibians, rodents, and arthropods. This hawk prefers small prey, rarely catching animals weighing more than 200 grams. Look, despite the distance, it was possible to see the young bird eating a coral snake. It wasn't possible to identify the species, whether it was real or fake, whether it was personal or not. But the fact is that the white-tailed hawk doesn't distinguish between the snakes it catches. As well as corals, it can catch small jararacas, rattlesnakes, and other snakes without any problem. Not immune to venom, it basically relies on the precision of its hunts, using its claws to quickly immobilize snakes' heads during attacks. Minutes later, more food, this time a frog. The adult dropped the food and returned to hunting. In this species, the male and female are identical in plumage, and both take part in the task of hunting and feeding the young at this age. What a moment, eh? The hawk arrived at the nest with an enraged fork-tailed flycatcher attacking him from behind. And the fork-tailed flycatcher was determined. Even with the prey in the nest, the little bird continued to attack. In the images, it was possible to see that the bird wasn't messing around, and at times it even struck the hawk with its beak, even making physical contact. As I've said several times in other videos, this behavior of small birds attacking hawks and other predators is absolutely common in nature. It's a defensive behavior of birds, called in biology riot behavior. Birds take advantage of their agility and small size to annoy predators in order to drive them away. In the case of the fork-tailed flycatcher in the scene, it attacked the hawk in the back of the head, where the chances of a counterattack are much lower. "20 minutes later, the hawk returned with more food. It's impressive how these birds manage to catch so much prey in such a short space of time. During this reproductive phase, the adults work hard, hunting daily to feed their offspring. Over the next few days, the chicks' menu didn't change. Small birds, snakes, rodents, and amphibians were the prey brought in by the adults. This photo is special. It's the first flight of one of the chicks after leaving the nest. The first flight usually takes place between 45 and 55 days of age. But even though they fly, the chicks are still dependent on their parents for several weeks until they learn to hunt and fend for themselves. As for the nest, as with many birds of prey, the couplet can reuse it for the next breeding season. For those who don't know, the white-tailed hawk is a species found practically everywhere in Brazil, inhabiting fields, pastures, mountainous areas, and even the outskirts of urban areas. One of the most intriguing characteristics of this bird is the variety of colors in its plumage. The bird is born white, but leaves the nest with brown and beige plumage. From the second year onwards, the plumage gradually becomes whiter below and darker gray above, until it reaches the typical plumage of an adult bird. But not all white-tailed hawks are like this. In this species, the occurrence of melanic individuals is very common, which we call dark morphs, which have matte black plumage except for the flight feathers. There is also another rare variation called the red-tailed morph, which resembles the dark morph but is distinguished by its belly, which is ferrugin brown. The white-tailed hawk is a master of the air. It spends long periods soaring in circles. Sometimes it joins vultures and other hawks. I've often seen it flying against a strong wind, almost hovering in the air to keep an eye out for possible prey on the ground. It often appears in forest fires, gliding through the smoke or landing on the ground to look for dead or fire-scarred animals. But it also lurks for prey from a perch. It likes to land on isolated trees, posts, fence posts, or even on top of transmission towers. It is not a hawk that vocalizes frequently. Its most common call is usually made in flight. The next time you visit a rural area, keep an eye out. It's very likely that you'll come across a white-tailed hawk. As I said, they are common and present throughout Brazil. My special thanks go to my friend Alessandro Abdalla for providing incredible images of this bird's reproduction. And for anyone who wants to go airborne in the Serra da Canastra region, here's the tip. Just talk to him. And as always, if you've just arrived on the channel and aren't subscribed, please do, as this is a channel specializing in the subject with videos every week. Agreed? So that's it. Thanks for always listening and see you in the next video.